Women had more rights over 1,000 years ago than what your great-grandmother had. In the kingdom of Mercia in the 8th century, just for clarification, Mercia was basically England before it was England. So in Mercia, women could sign charters, own land, and co-rule with their husbands. They could even navigate their way into political positions, which should allow them to be a prominent decision maker. Also, no woman of any age could be forced into marriage. The law reads, "No woman or maiden shall ever be forced to marry one whom she dislikes, nor be sold for money." Other rights that Anglo-Saxon women enjoyed were the right to own land in her own name and to sell such land or give it away without her father or husband's consent, the right to defend herself in court, and a woman's mourning gift, which is goods that a bride receives from her new husband the morning after their wedding. It could be a gift of land, jewellery, livestock or other, was hers to keep for life. And if she died without children, it went to her own people, not to her husband. Compare these rights to those of your great-grandmother in London. She was the property of her father until marriage, and then the legal property to her husband after. One of the greatest indicators of women's rights is the woman's ability to end an abusive or otherwise unsatisfactory marriage. Divorce was extremely common amongst the upper-class Anglo-Saxons. Early English divorce laws granted the wife anything from 1/3 to all of the household goods, depending on which kingdom she lived in. She typically received full custody of the children, but if her husband wanted full custody, he was to pay her for that right. So basically, we've been lied to. We've thought that women have played no significant role.
Yeah, of course not.
Apart from being in the house.
Well, history is written by the victors, So
History is written by the victors, but what is it? One thing that I had a problem with this book, right, is that... Pause this video right now. Go and read Femina by...
Janina Ramirez. And when you've read it, you can join us for the discussion.
Or you can join us anyway, because we're going to tell you all about it. My name's Elijah.
And I'm Joseph, and welcome to the Aisha Library.
But yeah, I wanted to speak about this book, obviously, and I like to speak about it for maybe 30 seconds before we get into any spoilers, just in case, people actually want to hear about it without spoiling it. But we are under the impression that women played no part in anything apart from bearing children. We didn't know that they were warriors, we didn't know that they were political leaders, we didn't know that they were emperors.
It's insane. And in fact, I've said in multiple times in in conversations, look at the world around you. All of this was built by men. I've said things like this before, everything you see around you, everything the light touches is our kingdom, so it is very, very eye-opening, and this is one thing I really do value in a book, where it can challenge something that I genuinely didn't even question.
Which is why I am confused as to why you didn't really enjoy it, because I think this book is, if not a 5-star, it's definitely a strong 4-star.
I have a few criticisms, which is...
But I know why you didn't like it.
Why?
Because you're a black supremacist and a male chauvinistic pig. That's why. But one problem.
Fanboy.
You're a Tate fanboy. You're an incel.
That's the word. Yeah, that's the word.
But I think the only problem I had with the book, I think it was too conservative. So I wanted the book to say, history's been rewritten and it's a conspiracy and this, that, but it doesn't say any of that. It just says we don't know this stuff, and here you are, and here's the information.
By accident.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. So she did speak about something called overwriting, which is when a man rewrites a woman's book for men. But
that sounds so peak, innit?
Yeah, and he puts his name and it doesn't note down her name.
Yes.
Or whatnot. And even that, she did say it was more bad practice of not putting down original author's name other than malicious intent. But I wanted to know that it was a conspiracy. But we didn't get that. But either way, I think the book was fantastic. And I think everybody should read it. Because it's changed my life. It's changed my life. Because I would say I'm 5% less misogynistic. And I look at women now, I don't look at them like they're useless, I look at them like they're lazy. Because women from 1,000 years... they choose to be useless. 1,000 years ago, a woman had a paper and a pen, and they were more influential than you.
So it's insane. Well, look, Janina Ramirez, look what you've done. 5% less misogynistic, that's a win. Surely you must take that. That's a victory.
You have to, but let's get into it.
Celebratory drinks. I put, another feminist book. It remains to be seen whether this genre is actually worthwhile literature or not. I loved Invisible Women by Caroline Criado Perez, but I was not a big fan of Kirsten Hanna's The Nightingale. Perhaps that's down to one being fiction, one being non-fiction, but let's dive in and see what we see. So, based on feminist books that I've read, didn't even really
Does it have to be... So, can we just define what is a feminist book? Because to
feminist
me...
literature.
But to me, this was her history book.
It's
not a feminist book. It's a history book about women.
It is a feminist history book. It's a feminist history book.
What?
Based on... It depends how you define feminism. If you define feminism as this female superiority movement, or what feminism is supposed to be as this female superiority movement, then no, it wasn't that. But feminism is just narrowing the focus, narrowing the lens on what women have actually done in history and why women deserve to be equal to men. So that's why I would define it as a feminist book.
Okay.
Because it narrows the lens on women did this, women did this, women did this, women did this. You know, Alfred the Great was called Alfred the Great, but his daughter wasn't. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and also this book wasn't. But this is why I don't say it's a feminist book, because there was a lot about men. It wasn't solely on women. If it was solely on women, then yeah.
Feminism has to include men, because you have to see the adverse impact men have on women as part of feminism. How women are treated by who? Men. So men have to have a place in feminism some way, shape or form. Even if you're one of these radical feminists that think men deserve nothing in life, you still have to be like, but men did do... They have to feature at some point. You can't talk about women in a vacuum.
Do you know what I heard? The male chauvinist pig is an insult that feminists say to men, and they say it's a triple-barreled insult. Male is an insult. Chauvinist pig. I didn't know that.
Back-to-back bullets. We'll catch it back-to-back bullets. I thought it was just chauvinist pig. I thought it was just chauvinist pig.
That's what I thought, but they say
mad.
Male is an insult.
I'm dead. That's what they're saying.
You're inferior.
Damn.
Disgusting.
So why are we winning?
You can't even birth a child?
Damn.
It's useless.
Why are we winning then?
Wow, that's a question. I put, not only is this book fantastic, but the audiobook is fantastic too. The author is so enthusiastic, it really helps you to be even more interested. She goes over and above to try and immerse you in the land that we're exploring. She will say something like, the land of mint. As you arrive by ship, you'll be greeted by strong aromas of cow dung. And your ears will be bombarded by the shouting of market stall vendors. And I didn't necessarily like those entries, but... I think it did nothing to immerse me, but not only is it the thought that counts, but these type of things upgrades a book from being by professionals for professionals to something that anybody can enjoy. Do you get what I'm saying? Does that make sense? So that's why I think it takes a book from being a 4-star, information to now entertaining.
I know what you mean, and there's things about the literature and the way it was written that I really did like, and I appreciate. No, I listened.
Yeah.
So there's things about it that I really did like. There's things about it that I really did like, and honestly, to give this book anything less than 4 stars, for me, it would feel like I'm being harsh. But at the same time, I did have criticism.
Have you read reviews?
Nah.
Oh, people slated it. People slated it.
That seems to be a good
and
indication
it felt like
of whether it's
women
going to be a
were
good book.
slating it too.
Yeah,
but that's why, a lot of people gave it a 3-star. That was the most thing.
And then you get one they gave 5 stars.
Sorry?
Think about that. The tree one they gave 5 stars or 4 stars. Think about that. What sense does this make? But what I thought was interesting, I did have criticisms of it, especially early on. Not sure how I feel so far. The content of the book is very good, at least it is so far, but I'm not convinced that I love the execution on the pages. At times, it feels like the author is trying to Busta Rhymes a 50,000 word document at me, with lots of names and dates and being knocked over the head with information. Information isn't bad, but when it feels like I'm studying it for an examination, it makes the reading very, very difficult to get through.
I agree.
I thought, especially early on, I genuinely felt like if it hadn't been such interesting information, I would have closed the book.
Do you know what?
Do you know what I mean?
I had to pause the recording probably 10 times in the space of 10 minutes. It was
ridiculous.
Like, pause. I have to write that down.
Influx of information.
Pause.
Yeah. Influx of information.
But it's good. It's what you want.
It's all good. That's the only reason I was still listening. But what I said was, when I'm at work, my hands are busy. I can't note down.
You're screwed.
I literally just said,
you're screwed.
I literally took it off and said, just go to work. Just work.
I was noting down to the point where I couldn't even note down a paragraph of information. I'd just write down
ridiculous
Queen Mary, the first woman.
And hope it triggers something later on when you see it, innit?
Not just that, but I would have to hope I could find the person online. Because they're saying these names that are not normal names.
I'm not gonna lie, if you're like Ethelstead, like
Cotfield, I had to go and find the family tree of the Was it Merovingian dynasty? I had to go for the Merovingian dynasty to find the family tree, to find the spelling of the name.
That's insane.
And then that name still didn't correlate with the story that they told me about.
Ethelstead and Ethelfled. Bro, they got the A and E together. I'm like, I don't have that on my keyboard. I can't even look for that.
Alfred?
No, Alfred the Great sets his line. So his son was like Ethelred. And then his daughter's Ethelfled. Then he had Ethelstead. I said, you might have taken the piss.
Ethelfled as well, innit?
Yeah,
because I heard he had like 11. It was like Ethelfled.
Yeah, so he had, but I think because when the A and E's together, you pronounce it differently, which would make sense to be fair. Otherwise, it would just be an A and an E. But I'm like, I do not have that on my keyboard.
Language was that?
I think that's Old English.
Oh, okay.
That's Old English. The A and the E together is Old English. I think because there's a line of
Elon Musk's child.
Bro, Joker. He's a Joker. Who knows what that is? But
let's get into it. We haven't even got into it.
I know, right? But there's a line of English kings who have names like that because obviously Danelaw, yada yada yada.
That was pre-1066 though.
Pre-1066, exactly.
After 1066,
we shake them niggas out. And literally, and that's not even Great Britain. Like Great British monarchs, they're all names like you and me. It's literally just English monarchs that and half of them have normal names as well. But yeah, go on.
Yeah, this is what I wanted to say. Yeah. So I'm just gonna say this. I did say it already, but yeah, I'd say I'm about 5% less misogynistic than I was when I picked up this book. Before I thought women were useless and that they were incapable. Now I know that they're just lazy. I can verbally berate women and say that there were influential women in the year 1000 and all they had was a pencil. What are you doing with your life? It's almost like the scene in Iron Man 1 when he said, don't tell me it's impossible. Tony Stark done it in a cave with a box of scraps.
He switched on him, Imagine
someone telling you something's impossible when you've seen it with your own eyes.
And I've seen you've got to state
the state of the art.
Everything. Infrastructure. Literally. He said this guy did it in a random Afghanistan cave with a box of metal bits. No lights, nothing.
You know what? Before we go into it, how about we start with our question of the day?
I meant to talk to you about this. I forgot.
Oh, you've got one?
I mean, I had one. It's just gone. I forgot.
If you could know everything, would you? So if God came down and said, I don't know if I started it properly. Question of the day. If you could know everything, would you? So if God came down and said he'd grant you the power to know everything, so that's all that ever was, all that could ever be, so you would know exactly what happened at the creation of the universe, but similarly, you would know what bogies taste like. So think about it.
That's not even the worst thing that you could know.
Exactly.
Or would know.
No, exactly.
Do you know what
So
I mean?
think about it. You'd finally know how to spell your own name, but you'd also know what anal feels like. So would you say yes?
Good.
Based on the last option, yes. Definitely yes. So what do you think about that?
I'd definitely say no. You have to say
what?
No. You have to say
I thought you'd say definitely say yes.
No, you have to say no. There's no way you could survive that.
What, the anal?
No, knowing everything. Just knowing everything.
No, but it's not but it's not a case of you. Why could you not?
Your brain would explode. There's no way you could know everything.
You could not know that.
No, you would never have peace.
All right, but this is the thing. Because of what we see on TV, when people know everything, we think it's this. But think about it. It could be filed away in a cabinet in your head, and you could go to that part of your head and access like memories. You got a bajillion memories. People live to 100 and they don't go, I have too much memories. Do you get what I'm saying?
No, we don't know if they do or don't.
I've
never had a conversation with a person with 100 years old.
What you're saying is it could be in a place where it's filed away.
But if you know everything, do you know how much more that is than 100 years worth of memories? That's so much more. That is so much more.
True.
So it's not even close.
All right. Do you think you are doing a disservice to your responsibility to the human race?
Probably.
Not knowing.
Probably. Because it's like, what's one life when you could predict terrorist attacks or whatever you could be doing?
Terrorist attacks. You could do everything.
You could cure cancer. Genuinely cure cancer. You're not just looked at as the holy grail of science. Cure cancer. Yeah. If we cure cancer, this will all have been worth it. Literally, everything up until this point will have been worth it. And I've just said no because I want some peace and quiet.
Sounds like a human, doesn't it?
Rather watch Netflix.
So, okay, let's say you said yes, you can know everything, and it's all filed away in the cabinet.
Yeah.
And then there's a cabinet named Joseph, and it's about all that ever was and all that could ever be.
So, in my future as well.
And in your future. And you, against wishes, God said, look at everything, but that's the forbidden apple.
Yeah.
That's the forbidden fruit.
Yeah,
you don't want to look at. You can, but you don't want to look at it.
You said, just trust me on this one. Yeah, you'd have to. If you know everything. You just said I know everything. So I don't know everything.
You would have to.
You have to.
You would have to.
What? And I'm seeing it there. It's got my name on it.
Yeah.
And there's no lock.
And it's there. And you just one peak. Just
Literally.
one peak. But you know
I'm
that one
dead.
peak would turn into everything.
That one peak is gonna. If it's some, it would have to be the first thing you see. If it was something horrible, would that be worse than if you saw something amazing? Because like you see something amazing, now you have to keep reading. You're like, I wouldn't know how this turns out. Like, imagine you open the first one and like the day Elijah won the lottery.
Yeah,
You're like,
exactly.
oh my god.
But then you scroll and you look and it says imprisoned for murder.
Yeah, nah, legit.
You'd be like, it wasn't me.
I didn't do it. I didn't do it.
So, in conclusion, I think this was a good question, wasn't it?
It is a good
It's
question.
a big question, and
It's
one
a
that
big-
can't
yeah,
be
it's a
finished.
big question.
You can't
answer
okay,
it.
not only can you not finish this, because you can talk about this forever,
Yeah.
but what's the answer?
Yeah, no, I told you the answer is say no.
No.
Go back to your life. Go back to your
Shit
life. Yeah, the point of life is to be happy with what you have, not necessarily to always be wishing for something else. I think
But
that's the
you
answer.
only say that because you don't know everything. If you did, then
Yeah,
maybe you wouldn't
but
agree.
that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm happy not knowing everything. I know enough.
But it's happy.
I know enough. Do you know what I mean?
Know too
I know
much
too
of
much.
it.
I know too much already.
Alright, cool. Let's get to it, because we ain't got to the book. If it was
I'd literally be like to God, can you take away some of what I already know?
I'm gonna go. Did you know the first woman to publish a book in English was in the 1300s? Yes, women have been writing books for hundreds of years. Her name is Julian of Norwich. It was said the clarity of her depth of her perception, the precision and accuracy of her theological presentation, and the sincerity and beauty of her expression reveal a mind and personality of exceptional strength and charm. We understand that she must have been highly regarded, not only in Norwich, but beyond that, her reputation for spiritual wisdom has spread at least to the furthest end of the country, if not beyond. So, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. It just felt like every chapter I was reading this book and it was like,
Yeah, I know, right? Literally.
Women have been doing this stuff and we think, it's only in the 1800s or late 1800s or late 1900s women have finally started doing this. It's like a picture has been painted. Maybe it's by the feminists that, women's been battling for 2,000-3,000 years, and it's just not true. Women's been doing stuff. Because even when we read the book about the Muslims and the woman that invented the astrolabe,
Yeah, exactly.
she invented something, what was that, 1,500 years ago?
Stupid.
Women were inventing
Stupidly
things
long
1,500 years
long
ago.
Stupidly long ago.
So,
The Woman King. One of the most famous women to rule in a man's seat was Hatshepsut, wife of Pharaoh Thutmose II and later queen regent of Egypt. In order to establish herself in Egypt's patriarchy, she took on traditional male roles and is depicted in artworks as a man, often with a beard. Still, Hatshepsut was king in style and appearance only. In the 12th century, Jadwiga became the first woman to be crowned king of Poland. Jadwiga founded monasteries and churches and helped to Christianize Lithuania, the last pagan nation in Europe. She said, I'm the king. I'm not the queen. I'm not the queen regent. I'm the king. King. And here's the funny thing. And here's like a little nitpicky thing that I have. Is it feminist? Is it in the interest of feminism to conceptualize success as I must take a man's title in a man's seat, I must dress like a man, I must do things like men do? Is that not counterintuitive to what you say you want for women? Because that's now putting down women, and like now you're trying to escape the herd, you're trying to escape the pack, you're trying to become white. Essentially, you're an Uncle Ruckus. Essentially, you're an Uncle Tom.
well, what they would say in their rebuttal would be is, I am enough to be a emperor. I do not need to be only an empress.
But why is empress only? An emperor is more. What emperor is greater? Like, I aspire to be an emperor. Empress is not enough for me. Why not? If women are, equal to men and women are in their own right, why is empress not enough for you?
Me being the feminist playing the part, I would say that, isn't that what we all believe? Don't we all believe the emperor is the boss? And the empress is...
Yeah, but you're trying to change what we believe. We have a heterocentric society.
I don't think they're trying to change it. I think they're trying to join
So
in.
it's the patriarchies. Leave it. Leave it.
I don't know if they're trying to change
Look,
it.
you
They're
never
trying to-
see men saying, I am
wanna
the
be
empress,
empress,
I am
yeah.
greater, No, because that's not what we believe. You believe man is greater. You're trying to get onto me for believing man is greater. So it's just like, when I see when I see things like this, I'm like, is it not? Can you not look at it? Is there not an angle where you can look at it and be like, that's a bit anti-feminist, you know? Because you're putting down women, you're putting down women's titles, you're putting down women's roles, you're putting down femininity in and of itself.
But they would say, I completely agree with you. But they would say, I don't know if they would say that they're trying to bring them up. They're just trying to. You know what they're trying to do? Yeah? They're trying to say, forget the titles. That's what they're saying. We're not going to try and bring up the titles. We're trying to bring up the women. So they're trying to say, we're not going to try and make Empress as important. We're going to make a woman be an emperor.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So that's what they think they're doing. And I think it's a bit ridiculous.
I think it's a bit ridiculous, but who's to say it's not going to work? This exactly. Not only that, but I'm literally just like, if you really think you're as bad bitch as you think you are, then you would sit there, be an empress, and then do your thing.
Exactly.
Like, why do you need to be an emperor? Clearly, you must feel like I'm greater if you want to be me.
And I am!
Do you know what I mean? I don't want to be you. You lot want to be us.
You lot don't want to be you.
That's what I'm saying. You don't want to be you. You're shedding your title that you told me to respect. You're dashing it. You don't respect it. I just think it's... Do you know what I mean? I think it's quite anti-feminist, to be honest.
But you can't win as a feminist, according to you.
The ongoing battle. It's an ongoing battle.
You can't win.
It's like if you're a civil rights leader. You can't win. It's an ongoing battle.
No matter how much you get back, there's always more to be gotten back.
100%. For every victory, there's 3 defeats.
Yeah. There's never a charity in the world that says, yeah, we've met our targets, stop giving us money.
Stop making soup for the homeless.
Stop donating now, we've done enough.
There will never be no more homeless.
Yeah, exactly.
It's an ongoing battle. Does that make it a stupid fight to pick?
Well, this is a bigger question. You just asked a bigger question because it's the smartest battle to pick.
Your job will never be done.
Exactly. I can always get donations. It's these charities, they pay themselves first.
Yeah.
So Bernardo's, there's a manager in Bernardo's. So whatever to organise charity shop, there's a manager. He needs to get paid first. So guess what? If say his wage is 40 grand, right? It's a manager.
So whatever donations you get, minus 40 grand first.
So if there's no more than 40 grand, then starving kids ain't getting shit.
So they're gonna starve anyway.
Because he's gonna say, "Oh, well, I've got this. I'm holding a shop. We can send them clothes. You know, we've got clothes. Someone's got to sort this stuff out." Do you get what I'm saying?
Funny part is they don't have clothes either, so he's literally still doing good.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. So the charity thing is a scam. It's a scam, definitely. And we just it makes us feel good though, us dumping our shit there.
Yeah, of course.
500,000 years ago, earlier than what previously was thought possible, humans were building structures made of wood. According to new research by a team from the University of Liverpool and Aberystwyth University, expert analysis of stone-cut marks on the wood showed that these early humans shaped and joined 2 large logs to make a structure, probably the foundation of a platform or part of a dwelling. This is the earliest evidence from anywhere in the world of deliberate crafting of logs to fit together. Until now, evidence for the human use of wood was limited to its use for making fire, digging, sticks, and spears. Wood is rarely found in such ancient sites as it usually rots and disappears, but at Colombo Falls, permanently high water levels preserve the wood. Now I know this has got absolutely nothing to do with women, which is supposed to be the topic of this book, but while the book was mainly about achievements of women, it wasn't all and only about women. But yeah, this is dating back to 476,000 years ago, predating the evolution of our own species, Homo sapiens. But the reason why I wanted to, I was doing my research and I just found that super interesting because in the book she talks about a what's it structure. I don't know if you got to that bit.
Yeah, what's it?
A what's it structure. And the what's it structure had nothing to do with women anyway. So I thought, instead of talking about this, let me just talk about some old structures sort of thing.
Yeah, I know.
Because that had nothing to do with women. She was just waffling, and that's part of what she done in the book. You know, as I said, she spoke about some notable women, and she spoke about there's no evidence of gender roles as well. Anyway, but we just assume that there's
probably Christianity brought that.
Probably, I wouldn't be surprised. I hope it's not just the World War. You know, people coming back and. Because that's definitely where gender roles come from. Because the men came back, and the women were in jobs, and women had to make space for men because men need to work. You know, they need to support themselves.
It's like economically stupid to not have the men working, given like the advantages.
So then the women went home and looked after the house for a bit until we figured out what we were doing as a nation. So this was 1950s.
Yeah,
and do we think 1950s is just most of human history?
Of course not.
Of course we do.
Drop in the ocean.
Of course we do.
We act like it is.
I think that's why we think there's gender roles and all that type of
We act like it is, but it's like, why is one sex stronger than the other in the first place? Evolution did that for something. Do you know what I mean? The not-so-dark ages. This isn't the first time we've been enlightened to the improper naming of the so-called Dark Ages. We don't forget that in these times, methods of flight, surgical procedures, and foundations for technology that wouldn't exist for another 1,000 years were being pioneered by the Muslim civilization. Islam isn't the only religion that has helped to shape the modern world, in fact. The size of its footprint is perhaps only matched by that of Christianity's. With discoveries unearthed at a 7th century Anglo-Saxon burial ground in Loftus, England, we can now glimpse what archaeologists and historians think is a period of the rise of Christianity in England. During the excavation of the graves in this burial site, trinkets of conflicting religions were uncovered, suggesting that the Anglo-Saxons had not yet fully converted to Christianity. Also found were the remains of a young woman of presumably high status who's become to be known as the Loftus Princess. So they literally found like 100 different graves.
109.
Was it 109?
109.
Look at this guy, knows his fucking shit. So they found 109 graves at a...
and they robbed them all!
And they robbed them all. They literally said, they take it all, baby.
Dude, Lara Croft
Literally,
got shit on
oh, come on. Where do you think Lara Croft got inspiration? But, yeah, and they found... I think they said they found jewellery in more than half of them, but there was one grave in particular where they said...
Did you look at the necklace?
Oh, yeah.
Did you look at some of the medallions?
Yeah, I looked at all of those.
They look like intricate, you know?
Yeah, no.
Like
handmade.
I showed Thingy, and she was like, what?
Yeah,
this
handmade.
1,000 years ago.
Handmade.
Intricate.
Handmade. And they literally said, this woman, whoever it was that was buried here, they found a skeleton, so they literally said, you must be the real bad man.
Did they actually find the skeleton, or did they find the remains?
I've heard both. I've heard both. In the book it said remains, and then I looked online, it said skeleton.
Yeah, see, this is the thing. Online it said she was buried on a bed. They said the bed had disintegrated.
And it said under a mound of earth.
Yeah, they said the bed had disintegrated. There was no bed left. But what they can tell from the remains of the dirt, they can tell. Yeah, something like that. They can tell like what the bed was made out of.
They said in the area,
they could tell that the bed was not a brand new bed. They could tell it was a used bed.
Yeah,
and they put that bed in there with.
What's interesting as well, they said in the area where she was found, the soil is especially acidic, which means that it contributed to breaking down the remains of the body and the remains of the bed and things like that. So she was buried somewhere else. They may have been able to salvage something else, but they know for a fact it was a woman, which means gender is real, guys.
Yeah,
it's real. But yeah, no, it's insane. That means, you know, in a period where Christianity was taking hold in England, you know, women were in and amongst the thick of it.
Yeah. This was in the year 750, or in around 750 when she was buried, or whatnot. That was my next point about the Loftus Princess. I don't even know if I should read it. I'm going to read it. For short. The Anglo-Saxon Loftus Princess. Archaeologists discovered a mysterious grave in North Yorkshire, England. They immediately realised that the grave belonged to a very high-status person, but they automatically assumed that it had to be a man, because ancient civilizations didn't value women, of course, right? So the initial excavation uncovered 12 graves. It was realised that the cemetery was far larger than first thought. So the following year, an archaeological survey of the entire site was attempted. A total of 109 graves was found. In grave 42 was a deep, wide pit in which a high-status individual was buried on top of a wooden bed with iron fittings. The body lying on the bed was most likely that of a woman, a very high-ranking noble descent, possibly royalty, as the quantity and quality of jewellery found in the grave is indicative of a woman ranking at the top of Anglo-Saxon society. So we assume that women couldn't be high status. We assume that women always were second-class citizens when we look back in history. But this is not the case. Did you see the jewellery she had on? So she had
iced up.
She's iced up basically. But yeah, no, as I said, this was in 750 AD. The jewellery was so intricate for its time. We just think, I don't know what it is. We look back in history and we think everybody was stupid and everybody had nothing. You know, and there's a point that I wanted to talk on. I think I'm just gonna save it and talk about. I'll got it for the next point. But there's things. Think about it. Joseph, we don't know how the periods were made.
Oh, yeah, that always gets
3,000, 7,000, it was loads
5,000, it was 5,000
Yeah, 5,000 years ago. We don't know how they did it.
Legit.
There's certain things that they had back in the day we still don't have. And it's something that...
Technology is circular, isn't it? It must be. It must be.
Yeah.
So at some point in the future, maybe it's 100 years, 200 years, we're going to bomb ourselves into literally blind
and then
just restart.
It's funny, there's a saying, I'm going to butcher this. They said, They said, I don't know what weapons will be fought in World War Three, but I know for World War Four it will be fought with sticks and stones.
Literally.
So
bomb ourselves into nothingness.
Yeah. Because look, we're used to phones, right? But
Yeah.
I'm telling you, we're the last two people on the planet. We're fucked. We don't know how to make this shit.
100%.
So the point I'm trying to make,
and
is
there's more technology in this than they went to the moon with in like the 60s or whatever.
So the point I'm trying to make
Nothing
is,
with
even
this.
if there's 1,000 people left on the planet, which is enough to repopulate a planet, is anyone in that 1,000 going to be a scientist or anyone that can produce anything like this?
Are they even going to want to work together?
Exactly.
Are they just going to go off and do their thing?
Exactly. I think it's your turn.
Yeah. History is still a mystery. In the 1870s, a Viking grave was unearthed in Birka, Sweden. It was assumed that the sex of the warrior was male, given that it was found alongside an assortment of weapons, axes, etc. However, thanks to the magic of DNA testing in the late 2010s, scientists discovered the absence of the Y chromosome. The warrior was in fact a woman, an idea that was dismissed so freely that it's no wonder how women came to be written out of their rightful places in history. We talked about this before in Invisible Woman. It was Invisible Woman.
Yeah. And this is, I love it when the books just
when they coalesce. Literally, it means we're on the right track. But it's super interesting. They found it. They said, weapons, axe, shield, man. Move on. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Didn't even test. Don't need to. Obviously, did something useful. Must be a man.
But
do you know what I mean?
But you have to understand where they're coming from. They've got 100 graves. Yeah. Testing costs money.
Exactly. And it's long. Remember, she said it's long as well.
Yeah. He's got a sword. He's probably a man.
Like, the last 99 times we've done this, is a man.
Exactly. Unless they haven't tested any of those.
Do you know what I mean? That's actually funny. Unless they're...
This is what I was talking about. So I'm gonna tell a story, and the person who I'm telling the story about might be wrong, but the story is interesting. So what I've got down is the Princess of Kent, Clotilde, her parents of the Merovingian dynasty. Her sons wanted to overthrow the young heirs of Burgundy, and they asked for her advice. They sent her a pair of scissors and a sword. If she thought that they should peacefully back down, then she shouldn't choose the scissors. Sorry. I'm going to start again.
Go on.
So this might be the wrong person because, as I said, I read the book and it was a little bit complicated. And I tried to find something that backs up this story, but it is interesting anyway. So the Princess of Kent, Clotilde, parents of the Merovingian dynasty. Her sons wanted to overthrow the young heirs of Burgundy and they asked for her advice. They sent her a pair of scissors and a sword. If she thought that they should peacefully back down, then she should choose the scissors so that they could cut off their long hair, which represented their royal power. What do you think she said? She said, "I'd rather see my sons dead than shorn." And I thought, bloody hell, it's just a haircut.
I know, right?
Do you know, I can imagine the husband choking on his beard.
Yeah, no.
Do you know what I mean?
The husband said, "Speak for yourself."
It's funny because I don't know if this is sexist, but most women can be passive, chilled, but the ones that are militant,
100%,
are militant. Can you imagine saying, "I'd rather see my sons dead than shorn"?
Dinner table and quiet, you know. Like, what do you even say to that? There's no reply to that.
You get going.
That's what I'm saying. You get going. That's our action words.
So this resulted in two young princes, 7 and 10, being killed, and her sons became the heirs.
Damn.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know if Clotilde is the person that said it, but someone said it.
Nah, it's still an interesting story. Regardless, insane. Yeah, no, it's definitely insane.
Good thing I'm a horse like that.
Oh, can you imagine?
Imagine if you asked. This is the thing. These lot asked their mum. They knew the answer. You've grown up with that. What I'm saying. You know she's on smoke.
You know who this is. You know she's overarm throwing shit. You know. You already know.
When you was young.
Overarm throwing shit.
Playing catch.
Wow, literally. Like, underarm. Jesus. Do you know what I mean? We're supposed to be having fun.
You know?
Nah, come on.
Oh,
you know.
gosh.
And it's still asked.
Yeah, you might as well have just done it.
You was never going to make it if your judgment's that poor. Do you know what I mean? Behind every man there is a woman. This is a bit of a long one. Alfred the Great is considered by many to be one of the greatest English monarchs of all time. Alfred spent years battling against Danish invaders, which we know as Vikings, who did not wear horns on their helmets. Mm-hmm. Eventually, he was able to make a pact with the Vikings whereby the land was divided into Anglo-Saxon territory and the Viking-ruled Danelaw. The finer details of Alfred's exploits are well documented by English history, and to this day, he is the only English monarch to join the pantheon of Pompey, Charlemagne, and Alexander in being styled the Great. His eldest daughter, however, Ethelfled, is not quite so revered by the history books, despite being an anomaly in English history as a sole female ruler of one of the great Anglo-Saxon kingdoms of Mercia. Ethelfled is well acknowledged to be an accomplished diplomat and a military tactician, being the mastermind behind the Anglo-Saxon conquest of Derby, one of the 5 boroughs of the Danelaw. Following this, another of the boroughs, Leicester, surrendered to her without a fight. The Viking leaders in York, Danelaw, York, were ready to surrender to her as the Lady of Mercia rather than her brother Edward the Elder, because they were both fighting this war, but they knew who's running this thing, who's showing this show. Like, she even said to him, like, I think everything you're saying is right, but you are not the man to carry out this vision. This is my vision.
So basically, she was Theon Greyjoy's sister.
Oh, come on. You already know. Like, literally. Like, nah, he got done different. He got done different. About it. You're not like that. You're not built like that. I'm like that. Ethelfled died before she could capitalise on the offer, leaving Edward to pull the trigger and be written into history himself. So he pulled up at the end when they'd already said, do you know what I mean? He literally pulled up into the city and he was like, yeah, I'm here to claim the city for whatever. Still, Anglo-Saxon chronicler William of Malmesbury described her as a powerful addition to the army of Edward the Elder, the delight of his subjects and the dread of his enemies. So we're seeing here that a woman was instrumental in the foundation of what we now call the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
You know, that conquered 1/4 of the planet.
Yeah.
When it was just these farmers and guys running around out here getting conquered by whoever. Because don't forget, the Vikings invaded England, the Picts invaded England, the Celts invaded England, the Romans invaded England 3 fucking times. Everyone's invaded England. Like, the Saxons came from, where they come from, Germany.
Sweden,
they invaded
Germany,
England.
all of that,
Everyone's invaded England.
Yeah.
And here we have Ethelfled. She laid the foundations for the United Kingdom, which then went on to invade everybody else.
When you have people so influential, you think to yourself, if they weren't born, would I be sitting here where I am right now?
100%. We be in Jamaica somewhere, chop banana till the daylight come.
So maybe she shouldn't have been fucking born. I mean, this shithole. I've got these white people telling me to go home.
I'm dead, literally. I'm clocking in. I wouldn't be. But you know what's funny as well? Like, the great...
We said it.
Literally, the greatest, or some say the greatest English monarch as well is Queen Victoria as well. So it's like, and then the longest serving is Queen Elizabeth II.
Well,
so
they say she's the greatest monarch, and she was, put it this way, women's legal rights under, say, King Alfred the Great, who died in 1899, were far greater than under Queen Victoria. When Queen Victoria was the most powerful woman in the world, she repeatedly claimed her own sex unfit to do anything.
Yeah,
which is interesting, because you've got a woman who was the most powerful woman in the world at one point.
In the world.
And you would have thought she would do something. You would have thought she would do something to, you know, pick up her agenda.
I'm sure she might have done, but then she might have also seen the truth and been like, listen,
she knew
there's a reason I got the keys and you don't. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know things.
This is interesting. This is the part. I don't know if you know about this stuff. I'm going to tell you. We'll see. And I knew about this. This is kind of my own research. But you'll see. It's funny how we associate the word illiterate with somebody who's stupid, even though this isn't necessarily true. Until the last couple 100 years, it was very common for people to not be able to read. Even so, people were able to reel off poems, stories, or entire books. This means that in some ways they were actually more advanced than we were. Surely we don't realize, but writing or being able to read breeds complacency. There has been many times where we as a species have forgotten how to do things because we haven't written it down. Did you know we once forgot how to make concrete and we had to reinvent it about 1,000 years later? And we were unable to, so we invented something similar but not as good. Listen to this. After the fall of the Roman Empire in 1476 AD, techniques for making cement or concrete were lost until the discovery in 1414 of manuscripts. And it wasn't until Joseph Aspin of Great Britain took out a patent in 1824 that we could actually produce something similar. So the difference between Roman concrete and our concrete is that theirs becomes stronger and more binding as the years go by, which is why their buildings will last 3,000 years, whereas our concrete becomes weaker as it ages, so our buildings crumble, and our buildings will even last a fraction of the time frame. How long do you think the shelf life of our skyscrapers are, Joseph?
Can't be that much. Can't be that
50 years.
Is it?
50 years.
That's nothing. The Colosseum spits on that. That's
50
nothing.
years. This is why.
And the Colosseum's crumbling as well. But
It's not. It's been damaged. I don't know what's
damaged.
happened to it. I went there not too long ago, a couple months ago. I was in there, but yeah. So it's damaged, but it's strong and it's gonna stay strong. This is why I don't know about Egypt because their shit stays strong.
Bro, that looks immaculate.
But you go
it's not
Italy,
still strong. It's as it was.
You go Italy and you see these buildings that have been up for 2,500 years and they're strong. I'm going in there looking around like, our buildings we cannot because we've lost that recipe of concrete. We lost it. Someone didn't write it down. Someone forgot. They handed it down to their kids and whatever. Someone lost it. We still don't know how to do it.
Damn.
So being able to read and write has its disadvantages. When you can only hold information in your head, you make sure that shit's right.
Yeah, you have to.
So
there's no check. Because if you die, even if you got the recipe there, the next guy can't read it. Do you know what I mean? So you've got to make sure that information is passed down securely. If the data's lost, it's lost.
How many you got? Because I've got a few. I can go again.
I've got 2 left.
Alright, let me go again. Emperor Irene, the woman emperor in the year 17... Sorry. No, it's not 17. Emperor Irene, the woman emperor in the year 797. Imagine she organised a conspiracy in which her supporters gouged out her own son's eyes. He was imprisoned and probably died shortly after. With him out the way, Irene proclaimed herself sole ruler. She reportedly refused to sign her name as empress, but instead emperor. She was the emperor of the Byzantine Empire, also known as Byzantium. This covered a large area of land around the Mediterranean Sea at its peak, including parts of North Africa, the Middle East, Greece, Italy, and Turkey. Just for clarification, she is not the only female emperor in history. There's been over 20 female emperors, but why is it that you cannot name 5? Could you even name 3?
Bro,
Could you even name 1?
It's
If I was to ask you to name 5 kings or 5 emperors, you'd be able to do that though. That's interesting.
History is very interesting. History is written by the victors, and history is written by men.
But we say it's definitely written by men. But why is it that the men have chosen not to write about the women?
Well, here's what I thought was interesting,
age?
and here's what I might have to read the book again because this might even be in it. But something confused me. Why is it that we're hearing about Ethelfled? We're hearing about what's that, Julian of Norwich? We're hearing about all these people that we have not have a clue about, never heard about in school, never heard about in college, never heard about online. Horrible histories, never heard about.
Yeah.
But we know about Joan of Arc. We know about Boudica. Do you see what I'm saying? We know about Hatshepsut. We know about Cleopatra.
Yeah.
So how come women sneak in these instances?
But none of these are emperors though.
They're not emperors. Fair enough. But I'm literally just saying
emperors is like a level.
It might be a few levels above
That's
king,
what I was gonna say because emperor is king of kings.
That's king of kings. That's like I've got territories. Do you know what I mean? It's not just one kingdom because kingdom means. Westeros 7 kingdoms.
Yeah,
bro. Emperor means I'm running all of that.
Well, really, whoever was on the Iron Throne should be an emperor. Though.
They should be called emperor, to be honest. But they decided instead of promoting himself, he demoted everybody else. Yeah. That's basically what happened.
Because in China, they seem to just do emperor thing. They just do everything. If you get king, maybe they've got so much land. I don't know what it is.
That's what happened to Rome as well, because Rome was a kingdom, and then when they started accruing more territory, the guy said, "But hold on, what?" He said, "What?" Because they went for a period where they had a senate, and it was
they had kings before.
They had kings, Romulus and then they went into a republic. Yeah, Romulus and Remus. Then they went into a republic where they had a senate. Yeah, they had a senate, and then there was Caesar. They gave Caesar so much power to win this war. He said, "I ain't giving it back." But he didn't call himself emperor, but he said, I'm not giving it back. Dictator. They called him dictator. Dictator for life. Essentially what Caesar was. Then this guy chefed him up. And then his line, basically, emperor. That's it. Yeah. Of the whole, from literally Europe, essentially. But emperor is a few levels above. Come on. We don't even have empires anymore. Is there any more empires? Yeah. I think the last one was the British Empire.
Empire. But there's emperors. So there's emperors of... Is it Japan?
Oh, is it?
There's the emperor who came. He came to the UK probably about a month or two ago. And he was walking around with Charles. Charles, you know, like he's my friend.
Yeah, like your brother.
Like a good drink with him.
That's funny. I met him one time, which is like that transcends any famous person you or anyone else has ever met in your entire life. I met the king. I shook his hand.
This is the thing. We see the monarchy as some special thing, but I'm telling you,
I don't know if
Stormzy's got more followers than him. Storms,
Yeah.
he's definitely not richer than him. But does he have more power? I don't know, because the king has a lot of power.
I was talking to my dad about this yesterday.
The king's
my dad was
a
like,
lot.
My dad was literally like, well, you know what he said? He said the president's got power. I said the president doesn't have power like how English kings used to have. Like Henry VIII. You know what Henry VIII did? Henry VIII, he wanted to divorce his wife and the church wouldn't let him. So he shut down the church and started his own religion called the Church of Henry VIII. Like, he's a king of England. Do you know what I mean? Just England.
The president couldn't mobilize the USA. Like,
do you know what I mean?
Like the king could mobilize this country. So the king, every single police officer, every single army officer,
they sworn allegiance to him.
They swear to the king.
Yeah, they sworn allegiance to him.
So
that's
he
him.
can say,
he's not voted in. Do you know what I mean? That's for
so
life.
he can say, first of all, the government's out. Next of all, the police. He tells the police what to do. He takes over the country. He could commandeer every single house. He could commandeer every single.
The president's only in for 4 years. Do you know what I mean? He's only in for life. King's been in from birth to death. He's royal. So it's the king or the queen that we swear allegiance to, especially if you're armed forces or whatever. But yeah, bro, it's not comparable. So imagine if it's an empire now. Because remember, they used to style the British king. I think Queen Victoria was Empress of India. That was like part of her official title. So it's like it's beyond them. And back then, you know, the kind of power they was wielded was not. It was not earthly.
That's why we have monarchies. Because
we can't get rid of them. They got too much power.
Is it my turn?
Dead.
Is it your turn?
You can just go. All right.
Yeah, just go. You can go.
Why did I just go? Let me do this one actually. Did you know a text in the 12th century depicts a Viking fleet commander in what translates to the red-haired girl? A woman was a fleet commander. Women had power and women were equals. Archaeologists have found female boat burials which suggest that women could be high-status warriors and that there has been no evidence of gender roles. Think of tradesmen, because yes, the Vikings we think of were actually tradesmen, but you think ancient tradesmen would be a male-dominated industry. Wrong again. In a gravesite in Birka, Sweden, archaeologists found that 35% of females were buried with the tradesman mark symbol versus 28% of men. I actually think, I did some research about Vikings as well, and I find it, you know, like in Avengers, like Lady Sif is like Thor's like main squeeze or whatever, where she's like supposed to be Thor's wife, because in the Norse mythology, Sif is Thor's wife. And then obviously in MCU, she was just some girl that, will they, won't they, but she was
just some girl.
She was a warrior in
What's
MCU.
her name?
Sif.
I thought you were talking about someone else. I thought you were talking about from the films.
Yeah, she was in the films. She was in the film. She was an Asgardian warrior in the films.
Oh no, but I thought you were talking about
what, Jane Foster?
Yeah.
Nah, not that. Yeah. She wasn't in mythology, but so she's supposed to be Thor's wife in the mythology. But in the MCU, she's like a proper warrior, goddess, yada yada yada. She wasn't anything like that in the mythology. They made her like that. You know what I mean? And it's like you have the Valkyries, which are like female warriors in loads of renditions of mythologies. But in mythologies, you know what they used to do? They used to serve mead to the warriors that fell on the battlefield and were accepted to Valhalla. That's what they did. So it's like, it's weird how we have this perception of Vikings as like, yes, our women can fight shoulder to shoulder with us, and yes, stand with us, and we're all the same. And it really wasn't. There's probably better than anybody else. Yeah. That I've seen anyways, because like the Romans, they weren't like that. You know, the Romans had a war goddess called Bellona. They didn't rate her. They literally didn't worship her. So they adapted all their gods from the Greeks, right? So Athena became Minerva. And Athena in Greece was the goddess of wisdom and battle strategy. So she had a lot of military importance. When the Romans adopted her, they said, we don't need you for that. We've got a guy for that, Mars. Mars is the god of the legion, or Ares. Yeah. They said, you stay to your little wisdom thing. That's it. So it's other cultures, they weren't really respected anything like that. So the Vikings were probably the best. But we have this perspective of them as like, women were shoulder to shoulder when it may not necessarily have been one to one like that. But at the same time, a woman's a fleet commander. Like a fleet that's not one ship. Yeah, do you know what I mean? That's a bag of ships.
10,000 ships.
That's a bag of ships.
Yeah. And all the men looked up to her. They weren't sniggering or, They
had to.
In a Viking gravesite in Burkhardt, they found a woman buried with a diamond ring. Turns out it wasn't diamond, it was coloured glass. And I thought to myself, gave out a couple of those before. But no, it wasn't a diamond ring, it was a coloured glass, which was actually consistent of the 10th century. What was interesting is that on the jewel, or glass I should say, it had a tiny inscription that said, "For Allah." My immediate thought was, were they Viking Muslims? Or Muslim Vikings? Did a Muslim give it to her? Did they loot a village after sacking it where she acquired the ring from a victim? I know which one of those I'd bet on, but it's interesting how we uncover these details from archaeological sites and we will never know the actual answers to these questions. Unless, of course, you accept the deal from the question.
Yeah, I was literally just about to say.
But the only thing we do know is that the ring must have had a deep significance, which is the reason why she was buried with it. But can you imagine a Viking Muslim, you know, where you got to rape and loot, but it's Ramadan, so you got to wait till the sun goes down, or whatnot. But yeah,
Yeah,
you know. But yeah, no, I can't picture that Viking Muslim.
I've never even no idea of that. I've never
Imagine, I'll send you to Valhalla.
You see what I'm saying? I meant Jenna. I meant Jenna. But yeah, no, it's the idea of that has never actually crossed my mind ever. I think Vikings probably, it's more than a people, it's like a religion, a culture, yada yada yada. You believe in Thor, you believe in the All-Father, you believe in Ragnarok, and these kinds of things. Or maybe they didn't, but it's just part of their culture.
Well, going on to Vikings, let me say this. As we know, Vikings never wore horns on their battle helmets. They actually wore bronze helmets with high protrusions. But we all seem to think that they were barbarians and that they killed indiscriminately. These are all lies. We imagine Vikings as barbaric warriors who raided and raped their way across the known world. They were not half naked and unhygienic men. So firstly, the idea of Vikings being one unified people is a myth. The term Viking has only been used since 1873. They were actually referred to as Norse, Swedes, or Danes. Archaeology also paints a different picture about who we call the Vikings. In the grave sites, we find tweezers, combs, and ear scoops for removing earwax. The Old Norse term for Saturday was called Laugenday, or bathing day. You know, so I'm gonna go out on
Thor's Day as well.
Well, so they were clean people. So I'm gonna go out on a limb and say 90% of what I know about the Vikings is from Game of Thrones. You know, the Wildings Beyond the Wall, Tormund. When I think Viking, I think Tormund. And it really does show because you know nothing. Jon Snow.
Literally.
But
and
yeah,
the funniest thing is, like, you have the same thing with the Dothraki and the Arabs. Like, they're just allegories. They're allegories of like of like what it is supposed to be. Because like Westeros is supposed to be Britain.
The Dothrakis are kind of closer to the Arabs because they're savages. We didn't think I was gonna go there.
I was agreeing.
We didn't think I was gonna go. No,
I was agreeing, and I was like, yeah, no, but there's supposed to be allegories of.
I never noticed
like
that
those.
one though, honestly.
Yeah, no. The funniest thing is, that was always more evident to me than the Wildlings and the Vikings. To be honest,
I saw the Wildlings and Vikings.
Do you think that's the nailed on one?
They dot straight away.
I mean, they're up there in the snow, in the ice, in the cold, you know, drinking out them tusks.
Yeah. That's exactly what it was. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, that's funny.
Let's get to the last one.
I'm going to the last one.
I think we would go ahead.
We've got over
an hour and a half.
I'm baking it in. But and I should really speak for myself when I say this. I will always hold in the highest esteem books that teach me something about myself or change a long-standing worldview that I previously had. Invisible Women was great because it shows the reader how the achievements and the very presence of women has been erased from the history books. And this did, like, essentially the same thing, but I think on a bigger scale, because Invisible Woman was all about women in the modern day, whereas opposed like this, like, took
it's
steps
hard to
through
quantify
history.
a bigger scale.
It is very difficult. Like,
if I was to read one, I think the Femina is better. But I don't know, because the Invisible Woman is still current. Maybe it's more useful.
It might be more useful. I think I would read Femina again just because I feel like there's more I could get from it than I could get from Invisible Women, because I just feel like I picked up a lot more from Invisible Women the time I read it. Circumstantially, I'd probably read Femina again. But this is a very, very, very good book. And like when I said I didn't like it, it's harsh to give it less than 3 stars. Is very, very harsh to give a book like this, to be fair. But I think 3 stars might be fair.
Really?
I think that might be fair.
What have you marked it down for?
Well, one thing I marked it down for like the reading experience earlier in the book, where I was literally just like, I feel like a lot of information was lost on me because of the delivery.
That's too harsh to mark a book down.
You think so?
There's too much information.
No, it wasn't too much information, but it's the delivery of the information. It was delivered in such a way that a lot of it was lost on me. So it was a lot of wasted words, in my opinion. Like, maybe if I had read it in PDF form, it would have been different. Maybe it was different for you, because, like, you know, it was just...
I thought it was fantastic.
Maybe I was tired when I was reading it, or I was hungry when I was reading it. Like I said with the judges, who knows? But I'm just saying... Maybe, but I'm just saying, in the circumstances under which I read it, it's just like, I feel like I missed so much information out of that book. Especially in the earlier... I was switching off sometimes. I was on the bus listening to it, I'm switching off. And I have to tune back in. I'm just like...
That's why you said you didn't enjoy it. So
but that's what I'm saying. There's loads of books where I have not had to tune back in. I'm locked in.
Yeah. Maybe
do you know what I mean?
It's about women. You're like,
Don't need to listen to this anyways. One? Yeah, that's it.
Alright, I'm going to say my last one. Hildegard, the nun doctor of Germany. The female global superstar in the year 1000 that you've never heard of. Hildegard was an enormous, influential and spiritual woman who paved the way for other women to succeed in a number of fields, from theology to music. She was a mystic writer who completed 3 books of her visions. She wrote topics ranging from philosophy to natural healing with a critical expertise, praised by both German advice seekers and the highest ranking figure in the church, the Pope. Who was an esteemed advocate for scientific research. Hildegard was one of the earliest promoters of the use of herbal medicines to treat ailments. She wrote several books on medicine, including Physia, circa 1150, which was primarily concerned with the use of herbs in medicinal treatment. She broke barriers by writing religious opinions, which women typically did not do, and she was respected and encouraged by men. She was not an anomaly. There were women who also did notable things, but we just haven't heard of them. You know? Yeah. So
we haven't heard of them because, like, even on the off chance, not off chance, but on the occasions where they do something magnanimous to be or great to be in history, they get written out by the men.
They get written out. And this is the thing. So someone commented on our video saying that it was about the invisible women that we spoke about. Yeah. And we were speaking about how there's more statues named John than there are of female statues. I saw that comment. And a man said, it's because men have done... It don't matter. Well, it doesn't matter, but he did say it was because statues would normally... because of the battlefield and, you know, there hasn't been women on the battlefield. And there has.
Yeah, there has.
There's been women on the
Look, there hasn't been as many, or nearly as... I don't think there's been nearly as many. But...
Of course there hasn't, but, I mean, if you want to show some form of diversity and you want to inspire the next generation, then there are women who could be put up.
100%. Battalion of Death. Battalion of Death. World War II? World War II? Or was it World War I?
You don't want to put those up, though.
Yeah,
they didn't do anything.
They didn't even want to put them up.
But yeah, this has gone on way longer than it was supposed to. I hope it's... How long have we been here?
40 minutes.
Is that it? Okay.
I think so.
Fair enough. That's all right then. Cool. But yeah, women have use. It's a conclusion.
We're back to zero. We're back to zero.
I ruined the whole thing. I ruined the whole thing.
We thought we was in the minus with women, but now we're back to zero. So we can start working to get in the black.
Gosh. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's a fantastic book, even if you didn't believe it was. It doesn't matter what you think.
Literally. It still doesn't.
But yeah, till next time.